Katie Kelly joins us on this Remembrance Day.
Hello.
Maritime author shines a light on, well, the quieter stories that are often left out of history.
Yeah, that's right. Her new book follows and was inspired by a real-life couple trying to rebuild their lives after the First World War.
Archivist and writer Renee Belliveau explores the aftermath of war through fiction. In her new novel, A Sense of Things Beyond.
And a lot of my inspiration comes from records that I encounter in the archives. I am typically drawn to historical fiction and kind of revisiting the past through a more contemporary lens. But things like letters and diaries and photographs are the kinds of records that really give texture to the past, for me at least.
The book follows and was inspired by a real-life couple trying to rebuild their lives after the First World War. A nurse who cared for the wounded near the front lines, and a man once imprisoned in a German internment camp. Set in 1922 Nova Scotia, their stories weave together to reveal the long shadows war can cast long after peace is declared.
And so immediately when I kind of realized that these two people had met and fallen in love after the war, I kind of started wondering what they would have shared with each other of those experiences, what they would have kept to themselves, and how do two people shaped by such different wartime experiences manage to build a life together in the aftermath of the war. So that became the seed of this novel.
For Belliveau, fiction offers a way to reimagine those silenced or forgotten voices, and to help readers see the past with new empathy.
So I've always been interested in stories at the margins of history, and I do seek out stories that we might not encounter as often. I think when I encounter these tidbits in the archives that inspire me, I always think of it in terms of how can I humanize that voice, how can I make it a person that someone today would relate to.
Her research uncovered little-known truths, including how thousands of civilians, many of them new immigrants from Eastern Europe, were interned in camps right here in Canada during the First World War. It's part of our history, she says, few people realize ever happened.
And I think often when we hear of these stories, if we even hear of these stories, we think of them as, you know, the enemy, soldiers, spies, people like that. But that wasn't the case. A lot of them were just recent immigrants who had been welcomed to Canada, asked to come to Canada to settle maybe less desirable parts. And then as soon as war was declared, they were declared enemy aliens and were no longer welcome in Canada, and they weren't allowed to leave.
A Sense of Things Beyond is a novel about memory, loss, and what comes after war. A reminder that remembrance doesn't end with a moment of silence. It continues in the stories we tell.
If you look at the world around us, I think you will see a lot of things from the First World War that are hauntingly familiar. And so that the point is that I hope we don't forget about the past and that we don't forget the lessons of the past either.